So
Okay,
it
well,
doesn't cost me
according
anything.
to official cell phone time, it's 4:15. Let's go ahead and get started. My goal is to be done in an hour or less. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Bridget, you want to, that was unanimous. Okay. I think in the course of two different document feeds, I got you everything that I wanted to talk about. Sorry, the second group was later, and those are of less consequence. The first thing I'd like to do is approve the minutes. Did anyone see anything in the minutes that they thought should be altered? I did send that in the first group, I think, didn't I? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Okay, unanimous, thank you. Those of you who participated in a meet and confer, well, everyone can look over the minutes, but just those of you who attended the meet and confer will vote on this. Anybody see anything in the meet and confer minutes that you want to discuss? Seeing nothing, all those in favor of approving the meet and confer minutes as presented, please raise your hand. Opposed, same sign, 5-0 there. Okay, the next thing on the agenda was to continue the forward planning discussion. I want to skip that for just a moment and go to update on the insurance discussion because there's really not much there, and then we'll come back to the other. We had a meeting with J.W. Terrell, a number of us, last Friday, and they are working on, they're our insurance broker for health insurance, and they are working on getting a number of different proposals, probably 4 to 6 different proposals to bring back to us. They will meet with us at the December meeting. They'll be the first thing on our agenda after approval of minutes, and they'll present some things that they're also going to share with the board, and I think we're doing with the board committee right before that, is that correct? Insurance committee. Right before the United meeting, and then they'll share that same information with us. So that'll be at the next meeting. The things that are, well, everything is on the table basically, but they're looking at possible plan redesigns. They've been asked and are trying to leave the network the way it is, but there'll be possibly some changes in deductibles and co-insurance, plan designs, maybe incentivizing some plans as opposed to others. They're looking both at leaving the board contribution the same and possibly changing the contribution back to the $690, $280. So like we said, everything's on the table, and they'll bring us a range of options. So that will be at the December meeting, and then hopefully we'll have some time to discuss after they're done with that. Any questions about the insurance issue at this point in time? Oh, the other thing I wanted to make sure everybody understands is that we are bidding out our insurance services again, which really is a good thing because we possibly will be able to get some competition between providers, and that sometimes can be useful in driving down the costs a little bit. So it's really a good thing that that's going to be out to bid. Any other questions about insurance? Okay. I sent you in the second document load that just came out this afternoon. Hopefully all of you saw it. The three separate pages about teacher salary schedule, and then the 3 rectangles, and same with classified support staff and with administration. If you're thinking to yourself, well, we've already sent these out, I have, except there were some changes to them. The middle rectangle on each of the 3 charts is where the changes were. It came under current costs and everything to the right of that. On the previous documents, I'm looking at the one that says teacher salary schedule in the upper left hand. When it came out the first time, in the middle rectangle for current cost, it said $479,364. Now it says $5,752,363. What happened on the first go-round was those were monthly totals, so everything in those boxes was then multiplied by 12 to get the accurate figure. Okay, so when when the business office put them together, they had figured the monthly cost, and it was noticed, and then so these numbers are correct. Everything in the top and bottom rectangles is the same. In the middle on all three of them, from current cost on over was changed, and in essence it was multiplied by 12 to change from monthly cost to annual cost. That make sense to everybody? Okay, so I just wanted to point that out to you. I don't think really need to. The only way that will play into a major discussion will be when we get to prioritizing. We say, if insurance costs increase, how much is it going to be? These would be the numbers that would accurately reflect that. All right, anything else on that? Okay, then let's look at, I saw some of you pasted these pages together. I chose to staple mine. I sent you two spreadsheets. One that was of our based on our current insurance contribution, and the second one that was based on if we go back to the higher insurance contribution. This was $592.80, this is $692.80. And what it's a reflection of is, as we look at compensation packages, it's important to look at what does the board spend on every member who works for us. Okay, so not only salary is not the only thing that's included in there. We also pay retirement. We also pay benefits, and then retirement on the benefits package itself. So those are all the things that go into the costs. The sheet that was just passed around looks like this, except for the red circles that I do on mine. Dr. Van Zyl asked me to determine what was the cost of the average teacher in St. Joe. So the average teacher is somewhere in row 11 in the master's column. You see there are 13 people there. The way I figured that, there were 761 teachers, and so I split that by 380. Number 380 falls in that little rectangle there somewhere. Okay? And so when you look, the salary in that rectangle is $48,037. And then when you multiply that by 1.145, because we pay the 14.5% toward retirement, that comes to $55,002.36. Now, if that teacher also happens to be on our insurance, which about 80% of our folks are, they get $592.80 a month times 12 times 1.145 is an additional $8,145.07, which would make the average teacher cost $63,147.43 if they take our insurance. If they don't, it would be $55,002.36. Okay, just a tidbit for you as we're talking about what does the average employee cost for a teacher. That's what it would be. Okay? Questions on that? Wonderful. You guys must have all had a tough day today. You're all kind of beat into submission already, it seems like. Okay, now the two sheets, the current and the, I call them current and higher. What I did was I looked at St. Joe, Blue Springs, Lee Summit, Liberty, North Kansas City, Park Hill, Platte County, and Smithville as comparison districts. Just for your reference, we lose the most teachers to Platte County of any district, followed pretty closely by North Kansas City and Park Hill. Okay, so those are the places that when people leave here for a different job, that's where the most of them go. A rectangle that is highlighted in yellow, well, let's go across the top first. So we've got the district is listed, and under the district it tells how many days in the teacher contract for that district, like 181 for us, 182 for Blue Springs, and so on down the list. You'll notice a couple of them are 187, a couple 186s. Only one district has less teacher days than we do, that's Platte County. Everybody else is 182 or higher. So we've got the years of experience. I looked at years 1, 6, 11, and 20, just to take some varying levels of experience. Put the salary table amount, multiplied it by to get the retirement amount, then took it times the insurance times the 1.145, and that gives you a total cost of that particular employee. So there, in column F, then you would see at the very top where it says $49,594.07. That's what the St. Joseph School District spends on a teacher that's in bachelor's, step 1, that takes our insurance. Okay? And then the same thing as you go across for bachelor's plus 16, master's, and then on to the next sheets. So if you look at column G, those of you who either print it off in color or have it on your device, there were 10 of the 18, other than ours, there are 18 rectangles in column G. 10 of the 18, the St. Joseph contribution, or the St. Joseph salary and benefits is higher than 10 of those 18. If you move across to column L, which would be bachelor's plus 16, you'll see that in 11 of the 22. So we're kind of right in the middle there. When you flip over and look at column Q, which is master's, in 9 of the 27, we were as higher. And then when you get to master's plus 16 and farther off, we kind of fall off the cliff. 3 out of 28 with the master's plus 16, 2 out of 28, master's plus 32, 1 out of 28 in the master's plus 48, and surprisingly then at the doctorate, 8 out of 28, so we kind of make a little recovery there, if you will. Then when you look at the other spreadsheet, the numbers for all the other districts are the same. Ours were increased by 1,200 times 1.145, and that would reflect the additional $100 toward insurance if that were to be put back as a board contribution. And you can see then that puts our number of rectangles in yellow. It increases them all the way through as you would expect. Obviously, we don't know yet what's going to happen to our salary schedule, and we certainly can't predict what's going to happen in the other districts. But this would be a very accurate reflection of how do our teachers compare now to those districts in those particular categories. Okay? Questions or comments on that? What it looks like to me, just at first glance, is that we fare pretty well at bachelor's and bachelor's plus 16. Not so bad at master's. After that, it falls off dramatically until doctorate level. And I think we kind of knew that. A couple of years ago, we made a minor adjustment to the master's column, but didn't do anything beyond to the right. Okay, so that's just kind of for your information to have as we look at some of these things. Eric, you started to look like you got something on your mind.
Yeah, I've not been feeling well the past week, so just bear with me. But, so in column E with the insurance times the 1.145, what did you multiply by 1.145 for all the other districts?
Nothing. Oh, no, their insurance contribution, it's in there. It's the exact same thing. Okay, so look at column E.
But that doesn't.
Okay, so in column E, as you said, that number is going to be the same for us every time insurance is mentioned in column E and column J, etc. So that's 592.80 times 12 times 1.145. I don't remember the exact number with Blue Springs, but obviously it was more than 592.80.
Okay.
But for every district, I took their insurance contribution and multiplied it by 12 and by 1.145.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. What the number was before all the multiplication, I don't have in front of me. But yeah, it was their district's monthly contribution times 12 times 1.145.
With those districts, all of them, because that number would be interesting to see. What were that number plus the employee contribution amount would be interesting to see. So in those other districts, when you were looking at this information, were the other districts like employees paying $50 a month, $60 a month, $100 a month? What were they paying towards their own insurance?
That I can't tell you without going back and researching it. My goal in this was to find out the total district contribution toward employees at those particular salary levels, experience levels.
I think quick conversation with J.W. Terrell, it's going to be kind of across the board, because some districts will say, here's our base plan, if you want anything above that base
Right.
plan, you as an employee can buy up to what those other levels are. So it's probably something that can be found out, but to be able to determine who's doing what, that's still kind of a random
I
choice
understand that.
of the employee. Does that make sense,
Right.
what I'm saying?
It does. With this, we're just looking at just that base.
Right now, we're
anyway,
just looking
so-
at what the
Yeah.
total cost of each district pays per employee. We're not necessarily looking at what the employees spend if they chose to buy something up.
Right, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the base plan I pay, we'll say, whatever it's, I honestly don't know, like $45 a month for the base plan. That's my employee contribution to have the district insurance. So what I'm saying is for their base plan, is their employee paying $100 for their base plan and the district contributing less, which is what's affecting some of this overall. So that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying
and
to
some of
get to.
it, probably some of it's gonna be different. Some may have their base plan, which is 100% paid for by the
Gotcha.
district.
Right.
But then it would be hard to be able to say, because the benefits in that plan are probably not apples to apples to compare
True,
to what
true.
ours are. So if they had the exact same plans, it would be pretty easy to say, hey, here's how our plan, or their benefit structure, if it lined up the same as ours, then it'd be easy to compare. So they could be paying less, but also have less out-of-pocket expense or less, other benefit coverages, depending on what those plans are. So if there's a specific district, we could probably find that out. It would take a little bit of legwork, but I think to do all of them, it would be quite an astronomical task, because I'm guessing they're gonna have, just seeing what J.W. Terrell shared with us in the past, we've got multiple layers to some of these districts and the benefits that they offer.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
I understand what you're saying now,
Yeah.
but hopefully that makes sense.
Other comments or questions on the information on these two spreadsheets? Okay. The one I think we'll probably spend the majority of our time on here, the potential budget additions spreadsheet that we've been working with a couple of months. There were some changes to this document as well. They were fairly minor. Before I've been telling you, 1 cent in the district raised basically $100,000. Because of the changes in the valuation, Gabe said that the actual figure is closer to $108,000, and so I indicated that at the bottom. So before, when we've been saying, a potential revenue increase of 52 cents would be 5.2 million, now that would be 5.6. So, when you multiply that, it does make a fairly significant difference. 63 cents where we were thinking 6.3 million would be 6.8 million, etc. So every 1 cent, again, the change is from $100,000 to $108,000 in terms of tax generated. Okay, we had talked last time, of the last two meetings at least, about this, and we had kind of a list here, and you were supposed to prioritize or be in the process of prioritizing things as a 1, 2, or 3. 1 being something that, yeah, I think we absolutely need to do this. 2 as a, yeah, if we can, and 3 probably not quite as important. I want to just kind of go through each of those items and make sure that we understand exactly what we're talking about. And then your major assignment for next time is going to be within 2 weeks to have communicated with your group, fill this out and send it back to me with your individual prioritizations. Now, MSTA and NEA, you guys are, you can send me 2, is fine. There are 12 voting members, and so I'll hope to get 12 of these back, one from each of you, with your priorities based on what you've found out from your individual groups. Okay? So at the top, possible additions, we've talked about STEP for teachers, projected cost on that, $714,000, classified right at $400,000. Horizontal movement, I had a couple of questions about that, and if you don't live in the teacher world, this may not be something you're familiar with. The teachers, as you saw on the scale here, there's a difference in salary for a teacher who has a bachelor's as compared to bachelor's plus 16, master's, and so on. So the step, or the horizontal movement, is as they move from left to right across by gaining more education. We have usually about 80 people per year. So it figures out usually about 10% of the teachers on any given year move across the salary schedule. And as they do that, the approximate cost is about $128,000 when you divide it by that 80 people. So that's what that is. Step for administration, about $111,000. Any questions on any of those? That's old information. I think we've discussed those.
I did have a question.
Uh-huh.
Down about halfway through the list, the reinstate sped department chairs at 3 at $55,000. Is that, have we considered the cost of like internal candidates? Because normally that's what happens, is that we would hire an internal candidate, so that wouldn't be an extra $55,000. It would just be the department chair pay on top of their regular salary. So would that?
It's a little different with the SPED
Okay.
because in the past,
Maybe
in the past, the special education department chair was not teaching a course load.
Gotcha.
So
So
it
now
could-
they've been put back in the classroom doing mostly co-teaching, but some actual.
That's what I just didn't
classes.
understand.
Yeah,
which-
there would be an increase in FTE if we were to go back to
Gotcha,
that.
okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. Reinstate employee leave buyback, the projected cost of that about $300,000. Just to make sure you're all aware of the sequence of events, because we have some new people in the group. Last year, the board voted to at least temporarily, and there's no time limit put on it, but has temporarily suspended the employee leave buyback provision. And what that was that anybody who retired and gave notification by a certain date could sell their remaining leave days back at anywhere from $10 to $100, depending on how long they'd been with the district. And they had to qualify for retirement to do that. That portion was suspended, but they left the part where any days above 110 on any given year, if you're in that situation, that you could sell back again according to the amount based on the table. So if that were to be reinstated, that would cost approximately $300,000 to buy back the days that would be eligible. So that's what that's about. Any questions on that? Okay, the reinstate health insurance contribution. Again, this year the board's contributing $592.80 per month instead of $692.80 per month for every employee. We have roughly 1,000 employees in the health insurance, times $1,200 each, that's $1,200,000. So if we were to choose to, or if that were listed as a priority and the board chose to do that, that would cost about $1,200,000. 10% increased cost of health insurance. I'll be real honest with you, I kind of guessed at what that was going to be, and let me pat myself on the back here. If you look at the 3 pages that revised pages that I gave you, 10% more increase for teachers is $575,000. For classified staff, $954,000, so right there we're at $1,005,000, and $50,000 for administration. So it is right at $1,500,000 if we had a 10% increase to health insurance costs. If we have less increase, obviously that number is going to be smaller proportionally. And J.W. Terrell is going to bring us some proposals that would allow there to be no health insurance cost. There'll be everything from no cost increase, that will involve significant plan changes, to what we have now and to see what would that cost to do that. So there'll be a wide range of possibilities to look at. Does that make sense to everybody, where that number came from? Okay. Reducing the class sizes, we had talked about that. We determined on this other page that the average teacher was $63,147. Most likely, the average teacher that we hire every year is not going to be at step 11 of masters. Most of the time, they're going to have bachelor's degrees and probably either none or less experience. Occasionally, we'll hire a very veteran teacher, but most of the new teacher movement comes in with less experienced people. So we were estimating $50,000 per teacher. And that includes all the costs, the insurance, the retirement, all of that. The 17 number came from, I believe, Dr. Norman, correct me if I'm wrong, the number that we thought it would take to get us back to the class sizes we had for 17, 18. Correct? Okay. So depending on how we prioritize that, that would cost $850,000 if we did them all. If less than that, $50,000 apiece approximately. The SPED department chairs we already talked about. Stop sharing specials teachers at the elementary. If we were to do that, I think that we decided it would be an increase of 12 people to make sure that there was no sharing going on with the specials teachers, so $600,000 there. Dr. Norman, I'm going to put you on the spot here, I'm sure you can do this. Can you talk to us a little bit about how it was determined who was assigned where as far as specials?
So,
The number of, how you decided the amount of time that they needed teachers for specials.
okay, so we just did a kind of a template schedule for 50 minutes art, music, PE on a 4-day rotation, and then compared that with the number of sections in each building, determine how many staff we would need. So our large schools, Carden Park, for example, they need to have a full-time teacher plus 4 special teachers for a 50-minute period. So they need, I believe it's 28 sections. And so that's how that was determined. So our smaller buildings that only have 13, 14 sections don't need as much specials time throughout the day to create equity of art, music, PE, library time in our elementary buildings.
So is it correct that each school now has the same amount of art, music, PE as
Right.
every other one?
Correct,
Okay, and that was not the case previously? was it?
correct.
Okay. So 12 would be the number added to give every building their own set of specials teachers.
Correct.
Questions about that?
I do have a question about that, because we brought this up at our meeting. This isn't my world, because I'm not a specials teacher, so the people that do work in that world. Currently, how many specials teachers do we have? Like, how many elementary music teachers do we have? How many elementary PE teachers do we have?
We have 9, so we have 36, art, music, and PE. So we have 9 teams of special teachers.
And we would need 14 teams, because we have 14 elementaries, right? So if we went to where there was one in every building.
So it's going to be even, so it would be 20.
That would be 20 people, wouldn't it? Okay.
Well, I take that back, because every building now has their own library para.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say,
it
you have
would
to take
be-
library out of it.
So I said we had 9 teams, and we need 14 teams, so we would need 15 staff.
15 staff, okay.
Is that correct, Melissa?
I'm asking, because I didn't know how many we had now.
Yeah.
I don't know, our specials people have kept throwing out that there was some schedule created by Darren, and I don't remember the other lady's name, so I apologize. Darren Verbic, and then it was said a PE person, and that they had created a schedule that would require only a handful of more people, not this many. Again, this is not my world, so I'm just bringing you what they've said. Has that schedule been looked at? It was similar to what we have now, but it was a 3-day rotation. It took library out of it, I believe.
Put the library back into flex schedule.
Yeah, it put it back into its own thing, and it somehow diminished the amount of extra people. Again, this isn't my
Right.
world, so I'm just
Right, I
bringing their
haven't seen,
feedback.
I haven't seen a 3-day rotation schedule
Okay.
draft. If somebody did one, I would be interested to see it.
Okay.
I started working on one and realized it was gonna drive our staffing needs extremely high.
So if we could get that, because again, this is not my world, so we're just kind of funneling the information. We could send it to you. You would entertain at least looking at
I'd love to see it.
it. Okay, I will see if we can
I
get a
think
hold of
it was
it.
probably Janet Moody, I'm guessing.
I don't remember. I just remember it was a female. Sorry.
I can't remember the name either.
All right, so 600,000 would be the accurate figure if it's 12. If it's more, obviously, we're going to be increasing. If it's less, it would be less money. More counselors / social workers. I think 4 had been the number tossed about. That 55,000 estimate is probably low there because those folks are all going to have masters. Social workers have masters, don't y'all?
Yeah, that's a requirement. Well, not all of us do. One was
Well,
grandfathered in, but yeah.
Yeah.
But none of us make that.
When you figure in everything.
Well, 2 might.
Yeah.
You mean with benefits
Benefits
and
and
stuff?
everything.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
not-
yeah, that
no.
makes more sense.
All of these numbers are total cost.
Okay.
Not just salary.
Just salary, okay.
Certified elementary librarians, we've had this discussion, and there's a lot of different ways we could go. We could stay the way they are with secondary librarians currently are all certificated. Elementary are not required to be. We could make it so that everybody has to be certificated. We could make it so that there are several elementary who then supervise other non-certificated people. There's really a wide variety of things that we could do there. If we were to require all elementary librarians to be certified, it would cost about an extra $20,000 apiece to get certificated people in those positions. Hiring more paras had been discussed, approximately 20,000. There again, that's all expense paid vacations included in that. Bringing back teams to the middle school. That was about basically adding a teaming or a collaboration period back for the teachers, and in order to do that, they would have one extra period where they were not with students, which would then cause the number of teachers needed to be higher. And across the middle schools would be about 15 teachers. The preschool offerings, I think we had kind of settled on 4 more classrooms. So that's 4 teachers at 50,000 and 8 paras at 20,000 each. That comes to 360,000. Academic services had made various requests that include things like school psychs, behavior interventionists. What were some of the other things, Dr. Norman?
Transition coordinators, additional ESOL staff.
Mhm. And their requests totaled far more than that, but that's about the amount that would not be covered by title type funds. Is that a fair assessment, Dr. Norman?
Title funds or other federal.
Other federal
funds.
reimbursements.
Yeah.
Adding $1,000 raise to the teacher base, and that would not include a step, $1.6 million. Same raise to the administrator base, $160,000, and that's right now the teacher base is 36.2, so 3% of that is roughly 3%, and so that's why we put the 3% raise to classified salary schedules, because that would be a comparable raise. That's about $1.2 million. So there we came up. If we did all those things, we'd spend 11.4, and in 2 years would be totally bankrupt and taken over by the state. So we can't do all of that. Okay? So, then we had the others that we were not able to quantify quite as well in terms of a cost that are listed below there. So again, as I said, I'm in hopes that our next meeting is December 13th, I believe. So can we say by, that's a Thursday, so that Monday would be the,
So we're having it on the second Thursday in December
yeah,
because of Christmas.
it's like as a Christmas. So it'd be the 9th, is that a Monday? How about
10th.
by,
The 10th
the
is Monday.
10th, how about by December 3rd, have me, your spreadsheet with your priorities there, 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna talk about in just a minute how many dollars we feel like we'd have to
Do you
spend.
want us to include these that don't have numbers
Um,
to them, or just the ones that don't
You
have numbers?
include whatever you think is the most important.
Our frame
Well,
of
I mean-
mind,
Well, I mean, for instance, like, lots of people have said, hey, we need more mental health resources for our kids, and I don't think anybody would argue that. It's harder to quantify, but if you think that's a 1, stick it in there somewhere.
our frame of reference and frame of mind in going through this is on our current budget without a projection of what we would do if we had more revenue. Is that correct?
No, because if we have no new revenue, we're not gonna be doing any of this. We're gonna be cutting.
We'll be cutting 3 or 4 million dollars.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, so we'll get to, that's a good question, and that's my next topic. Can I
okay, yes.
put that on hold for just a bit? But to answer your question, no, if you think, your group thinks mental and physical health resources are important, noted, and, you know, we'll slap a price tag on it somewhere along the line. A school psych, just to give you an example, is probably gonna run you, when you include benefits and in retirement, probably 70 to 80,000. Dr. Benzal?
Probably the comment to go with that would be, yes, there's a price tag, but you also want to take a look at the number of kids that could possibly be impacted,
Sure.
or the number of staff that could be impacted by whatever is there as well. So you could, for mental health, for instance, you get a school psych, well, they're gonna work with more than 25 kids, and they're gonna support more than 1 or 2 teachers, you know what I'm saying? They could cover a certain chunk of the grade level. So I would throw that into your mix as you're explaining it to people. Not only is there a cost, but what's the impact of that cost, the number of kids, the number of staff that could be positively impacted by it. So to me, that's part of the quantifying piece of it, that is the dollars are the dollars, but there's also an impact component to it as well. Does that make sense?
All right. So in terms of, I'm glad you mentioned that. I live in that world every day, so to me, I had already answered that question within my own mind. What Eric brought up, if either the board chooses not to run a revenue issue or it's unsuccessful, we'll be in a place where we're going to be looking at cuts, not what can we add again. Hopefully that won't be the case, but we'll see. We're going to live on the positive side, assuming that there's going to be some new revenue, and so that's how we'll frame the discussion. Okay.
And you want them to just, out of all these, pick 3.
Nope. That's another thing that I didn't make very clear last time. And I'm getting ready to answer that question too. But I'm going to answer that in terms of addressing Eric's first, which was how much money are we talking about putting on our wish list here. The numbers that, obviously the board has not made a decision, either A, are we running something, or B, if we are, how much is it going to be? The numbers that have been floating around the most are 52 cents, which is kind of the Prop C equivalent, 63 cents, which was what went away a couple of years ago, and I've also heard 75 cents, and I'm not exactly sure where that came from. So those are the numbers that I'm going to give you. If we did 52 cents, that's $5.6 million. If we do 63 cents, that's $6.8 million. If we do 75 cents, that's $8.1 million. Okay, so we've got 52, 5, 6, 63, 6,800,000, and 75 cents, 8,100,000. Now, the part that you also have to understand, St. Joe has a history of putting sunsets on these things. If you have a sunset, you can't spend the entire amount. And I wish Gabe were here because he explains this very eloquently, but I'm going to try and muddle through it. If you earn, let's say you raise $5.6 million, typically a district is going to allocate 60 to 70% of that to be spent, because the rest you have to put in reserves in case what happens to St. Joe a couple of years ago happens again. You've got to have reserves to cover what you no longer have in that incoming tax revenue. 60% of 5.6 million is $3,360,000. We'll let you write a bunch of numbers here. 70% of 5,600,000 is $3,920,000.
Can you go back?
Yep. Okay, so using 52 cents, which raises 5.6 million, 60% of that is $3,360,000. 70% of that amount is $3,920,000. Okay, and if they went for a 63-cent revenue increase, 60%, well, that's 6.8 million, 6,800,000. 60% of that is 4,080,000, so 4,080,000. And 70% is 4,760,000. And I'll give you one more set of numbers here. If they were to ask for 75 cents and it passed, that raises 8,100,000, of which 60% is $4,860,000. 4,860,000, and 70% is $5,670,000. So, for the purposes of our discussion and for your information gathering, let's assume that they're going to ask for $63,000. So I would like for you to make your spending wish list fall somewhere between $4,080,000 and $4,760,000, which is between 60 and 70%. So, everybody's
Say that again, I'm sorry.
okay.
Between-
As you prioritize on your list here, I want you to try to fall somewhere between $4,080,000 and $4,760,000. That's somewhere between 60 and 70% of what would be raised by a 63-cent tax levy increase. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so, and then getting on to what Kelly was asking about, let's say that you think, your group thinks reinstating health insurance and employee leave buyback are their top two choices. That would be $1,500,000 that is coded as a number one. Or, let's do it this way. Make as many number ones as get you close to falling in between $4,080,000 and $4,760,000. Anything below that, that's the next important, make that a 2, and then the things that are lesser importance to you, make them a 3. So you might, depending on the items you pick, if you pick multi-million-dollar items, you may only have 3 ones. If you pick a lot of smaller items you're grouped, you may have 6 or 7 ones. It doesn't matter, but however many it takes for your group to get into that range between $4,080,000 and $4,760,000. Clear as mud? It is a lot of numbers. You got to kind of like the numbers. Kelly, did that answer your question?
I
Okay.
just don't know how I'm going to explain that through an email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess I would just say, out of these, you may want to ask your people, what are your personal top 2 or 3 things. I don't think you're gonna be able to let everybody prioritize what is on that list.
Yeah, especially if you have 150 in your
So,
group.
again, I'm not telling you how to do it, but that would probably be the easiest way, because if everybody gave you their top 3 to 5 things, you're gonna go through that dollar amount like that, you know, because some of them are pretty big dollar amounts, and just guessing what most people will say, it spends pretty quickly. So, yeah, if they listed everything, I think it'd be hard for you to be able to give a synopsis back of what your priorities are.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you just ask them, what are the things most important to you, and then, you know, if 80% of your people are listing the same things, then you can put the dollar amounts to that. And just, I think you'll have a pretty good idea from your groups what's the most important to them, and then you can assign the dollar figure. So, let's see, we decided December 3rd for that, correct? So if you could get that back to me by then. Again, does that give you enough information to be dangerous?
Yes.
Okay. A little dangerous, okay, as long as it doesn't get carried away. Anything else on the salary schedule discussion that anyone wants, questions you have to clarify for your own needs or in terms of clarification of your assignment?
Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Because I've sat in your seat before and done this as a teacher leader. What I would do is send this list, and as you get an email back from each person, tally next to the list what they chose as their top 3. Don't give them numbers, don't give them amounts or anything. And then when you see where your 3 highest tallies are, then you do the math to see where that falls. Does that make sense? And then, but I would come, and then you maybe code based on your numbers, what are your 2s and what are your 3s. So I'd only ask your people, what are your top priority, you know? Does that make sense? Does that help a little bit? Or?
Okay.
Okay, I have one more, sorry.
Absolutely, no problem.
Numbers are not my thing. Are we looking at projected cost or cumulative cost?
You would add the projected costs of the items that were chosen together, which would make your cumulative. Okay, the cumulative in this column is simply adding all of those together. Okay. I'm glad I was able to clear that up for you. Good job. No problem. Okay, did she answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. The next thing I had on the list was the attendance synopsis. I can't remember if that was in the second group of things or the first.
First.
Okay. What you have here is accumulation of a lot of work, and hopefully we'll be able to get some valuable information out of it. What it has is every school listed, and the way it's sorted right now, this was a spreadsheet that I sorted, and right now they're sorted by column E, high to, or low to high. Okay, so if you look down that row of numbers in column E, you'll see that they go from low to high. The other columns are all over the place, and that's because it's sorted only by column E. So right now, that tells us that the total days missed, all codes, and SFF means strive for 5, and that was just a way for me to keep that separate for the classified staff. Now, in columns B and D, those of you who don't like numbers, this is going to be a really long meeting. Okay, columns B and D are all absences for any reason. Everything from sick to bereavement to FMLA to workers' comp to you name it. If you were gone, it shows up in those columns. Professional development, school business, everything. So that's all codes for certified in column B and all codes for classified in column D. Columns C and E have all that's included in those are personal days, anything having to deal with sick, whether it was the employee or family. What else is in there? sick. Funeral, but bereavement is in the all codes. Bereavement's not included in C or E. But funeral, parent-teacher conferences, weddings, funerals, sick, and personal. So that's how I kind of split it out. I think it's just for information purposes. I just wanted to put it in front of people. When I talked to the principals about this at the K-12 meeting, I asked them to talk to their staffs, and hopefully some of them have, about, if we could get every adult employee to strive to miss one less day than they did last year, that would save the district about $100,000, and it would give about, I can't remember what the hour figure was, of instruction time back to students. Okay, so I think there'd be a huge impact from that. Now, some people, life happens. I've already missed more days this year than I did the entire year last year. My mother is having some health issues. Okay, so I'm going to miss more than I did last year. I don't think I've ever mentioned this in front of the group, but this young lady right here, introduce yourself, Amy Milliken, didn't miss a second last year. She was here every minute of every day.
And I deal with ISS kids all day long.
Yeah.
Middle school.
Yeah.
So I know life happens. Some people's attendance is going to be better, some is going to be worse. It's just, what's happening in your life at the time. But if everybody would have as a goal to get here one more day, and we were able to do that, just think of the positive impact that would have on our kids. And so, when you break it down into little chunks like that, one day per person is not a whole lot. Maybe that can happen. We had a lot of success with getting our kids here more, and hopefully that trend is going to continue. And as teachers, or whatever capacity you work with those children in, you can't work with them if they're not there. And obviously, they're going to better. Their education is going to be better the more that they're in front of you guys. So, just kind of look at this. Like I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it or belabor it, but hopefully we'll make that as a goal too, that we're getting our kids here more, and hopefully we can get our staff here more as well. Anybody have any comments on that?
So that column E that you have filtered it by or sorted it by, that's just for classified staff then in that column?
Yes.
Okay.
And that, when I printed it off, that just happened to be the one I had sorted it by.
Gotcha.
You've got it electronically, you could sort it by any column.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
That you want to do, yep. And in retrospect, I wish I had left column F off. I'm not sure why I even did it, because it really gives you no valuable information. It's duplicitous. So just forget it. I like that word. That's a good word, don't you think?
That's a good word.
Okay. Last thing on, that was the last thing on the agenda. Does anyone's agenda have anything beyond that?
If you do,
I meant to put that on there, but either I've got an old copy of the agenda. Does anyone's agenda say
Oh,
anything
that's
about?
underneath continue salary schedule discussion on mine.
Oh, yes. Salary schedule provisions. Now, I'm going to have to admit, I put it on the agenda and then I neglected to have it in my stack of papers. Did anybody print that off? Thank you so much. It is.
Amy, do you want one? I can pull it up electronic.
I'll give Amy hers back.
There you go.
Thank you. Note to self, come prepared to your own meetings. Okay, the salary schedule provisions is a document that is every year approved by the board. We had an issue with it late in the year this year, and so I want to get it in front of it for 1920. Anything that's crossed out would be changed, obviously, at the top. It would, instead of 2018-19, it would be 1920. In the middle section there, the issue that needs to be addressed is teachers with a national board certification. The way the board's policy and practice had been up until this year was that teachers got a $3,000 stipend for being national board certified, but if they also had their doctorate, for some inexplicable reason, it went to $1,500. because they got a sizable increase when they moved from master's plus whatever to doctorate. What this would do would allow them to, when they get their national board, if they already have their doctorate, they'd get both. Or if they have their national board, their doctorate first and then get their national board, they would still get the $3,000 stipend. So I think the wording in the fourth bullet of the middle section clears that up. It just says teachers with national board certification will receive a $3,000 annual stipend, period. End of story. If they're in the doctorate column, they obviously get whatever is in that particular cell. And I just wanted to make sure that while this was fresh on my mind, that we brought it to the attention of this group, and then we'll, my intent would be, unless there is some contention with this, to, after the December meeting, have a brief meet and confer, and this would be one of the topics, and then the board would be able to address it, hopefully in December as well, January at the latest. Does anybody have any questions about this or any concerns?
I have a question, just because a member asked me before. What is the, and since I wasn't in the planning of this, what is the reason for the September 15th date on the, like, getting your credit in, your graduate credit in to move over horizontally?
Actually, August 15th is the priority deadline, and the reason that we set that was because if we have it by then, it can be spread equally over the 12 checks.
Okay.
We accepted up to September 15th, then it creates more work for the business office, but that had been the prior timeline, I think. And so that has become the deadline for
The
it.
other issue is budget.
Okay, yeah, I just, they asked me and I didn't know the answer to that question, so I just wanted to ask.
Yeah. Did that answer your
Yes,
question?
it does, thank you.
On that as well, so I just to clarify with this, the salary schedule placement for graduate hours, that doesn't have anything to do with when it is confirmed or whatever, it's just the transcript that the hours have been completed, is that correct?
Meaning,
You end your program in August, but there is no graduation until December.
you have to have your transcript,
As long as
right?
your transcript shows you've
Official
completed
I believe
it.
it's official
Official
transcript.
transcript. I just want to make sure there's no confusion in that, because I've had people ask me about that, and I've not had a,
Every other place I've been has been official transcripts.
Okay.
You have to get documentation from the college,
okay.
and that's sometimes a pain, because they don't always like to send it.
Yeah, and that does bring up a point. It needs to be an official transcript. There was some contention with one situation where a person had a letter from their advisor saying student X has completed all of his or her requirements. That we're not going to accept.
That
Okay,
probably should be put in here. I mean, I know that it should maybe go without saying, but it doesn't say that in here anywhere, that it needs to be official. And I know, like, with where I'm getting mine, you can get on and print off your unofficial one, so it probably wouldn't hurt to add that.
Yeah, that could be in that first bullet under acceptance of graduate.
What is the likelihood that a university or institution is not going to grant you a transcript
Well,
after
just-
you've completed?
But just like you just said, in that scenario, there are some institutions that even though you've completed your program, if you don't walk until December, because that's
You
when
don't
your
get the
graduate
official-
class, you won't get your official transcript until December or January.
And I think I
They
think
won't
that's a
give,
problem.
colleges will not, and universities will not normally give you an official transcript until the end of whatever that semester is.
Yeah.
Whether it's a summer semester, a summer period, fall,
Okay.
spring.
And
That's when they call them official, because it's not official until their professor's timeline of when the grade that can be entered in is done.
And oftentimes, there's semesters, like especially with summer and intermission, those kinds of things, those things fall into the next semester, not the current semester that you are,
Or
does that make
sometimes
sense?
Depending on their degree too,
Yeah,
it will
yeah,
fall on the
absolutely.
next semester.
I just know that because
Okay.
our daughter that's getting ready to graduate has to do her internship. She's walking in May, but can't do her internship until summer. And so,
She has a December graduation date.
she walks in May,
Yeah.
but she won't be able to get a transcript for a job until after summer.
Gotcha.
which then falls into the fall semester.
Okay. I'll look at some wording changes to that first bullet under acceptance of graduate credit to make that a little clearer. We've got months before this needs to be done, but no, that's a good point. I'm glad that was mentioned. Does anyone have any problems with the idea of it's $3,000, period? Okay, I mean, I think that's good for everyone and it's clear. Any problems with that issue? Okay, I'll work a little bit on a way to make that first bullet a little plainer and bring it back next time, and maybe we can still take it to a meet and confer if there are no questions about it. Didn't quite make it in an hour, but close. Anybody have any other comments or questions before we dismiss? Like I said, December 3rd, if you can get me that material, I'll synthesize that all and we'll be ready to roll in December. The December meeting, I anticipate being quite a bit longer. I'm not sure how long J.W. Terrell's presentation will last, but that can be 30, 45 minutes. If I were to try to bribe you with pizza, would I be able to keep you maybe potentially as late as 6:30, 6:45? Is that doable? Okay, I will try to have. Pardon me?
Pizza
and brownies.
You have to have
Okay.
pizza salad. We're gonna be
I was gonna say, something that those of us that can't have gluten can have, that would be fantastic.
Okay,
Salad would be fine.
okay, I'll try and find something for everyone. All right, thank you very much for your time. Get those things to me by December 3rd, and then we'll see you on the 13th.